Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future home buyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of home ownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. LoFi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Jones on first down, wide open, it's Barkley, and Saquon Barkley will take it into the end zone.
Your best ability is his availability. Saquon Barkley, he's great when he's on the field, but the problem is since 2018, he hasn't been healthy for this team.
Look at this, they lob it to him, he taps it in off the glass. How about that?
Porter Moser, I think right now is the best coach of college basketball, hands down.
Fins 2 for 3, he's done his part.
Pitch is drilled to deep right field toward the pole, and it is gone.
They don't mind not being what they were in the 90s as the best organization in baseball, because the Yankees aren't even close to the best organization in baseball.
You're trying to be the Rays, and the Rays do this for a reason. Like, you're the Yankees.
Welcome to Sports Talk with R&J. I'm Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio, and some tough news for the Buffalo Bills today as they have lost Von Miller for the season. He had surgery on his torn ACL, and he's going to be out for the year. And I think with this move, I still think the Bills are going to win the AFC East because they got the Jets and the Dolphins at home. And say they beat the Jets this week and then beat the Dolphins, they'd have a 2-game lead on the Dolphins with 3 games to play. So I do think they could still win the AFC East. The problem's going to be is, are they going to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs? And can they beat the Chiefs or the Bengals in the playoffs? And I think that's the biggest issue because you saw this year's game when the Bills and Chiefs played. The pressure Von Miller got at the end of that game was the reason why Mahomes threw that pick, and that led the Bills to that victory. And they haven't played the Bengals yet, and they're going to have a huge game in Cincinnati on January 2nd. That's going to be a huge after the Rose Bowl and after the Rose Bowl. That's a huge game on January 2nd. For the Bills, and that possibly could be for home field advantage. There's a chance the Bills could slip to the number 3 seed if they lose that game. So I think they're going to still win their division. I do think it's going to be difficult for them to make a Super Bowl run, but I am sticking with them because they were my favorite to start the year, and Josh Allen is still there. And as long as Josh Allen's there, I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl this year. But this definitely is going to make things more difficult for the Bills, who are trying to win their first Super Bowl.
Yeah, it is. Von Miller, that veteran presence, he won the Super Bowl last year with the Rams. That means they need more from Shaq Lawson and AJ Espinosa, yeah. So, they need to get those two guys getting a little better in the pass rush. But, yeah, Von Miller's been a really nice piece of that defense this year. The Bills still, have one of the best rosters in all of football. They're still right there, with a chance to get that they get that spot for the 1 seed, get home field advantage and all that. So yeah, they could still definitely do that. They have, and Josh Allen's been amazing, I know, but I do think the Bills could still find a way to get Super Bowl even with that. I think their defense is good enough. I think as they're getting more healthy, in the secondary and all that, that's gonna help their pass defense out. But I still think they're pretty good, stopping the run where Yeah, affects them a little bit, but I still think that, yeah, they have one of the best rosters, and I think they'll figure out a way. They're top 5 stop and run, so I think they'll figure out a way, even without Von Miller, that they can still go out to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And I think, they still have Gregory Rousseau, Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer. This is still a really good defense. I mean, it's going to hurt, but this is still a really good defense. It's still a team that, obviously is very, very capable of winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And again, even if their defense gives up some points with that offense, they're going to be able to score with a lot of teams. They're going to be able to, outscore majority of the teams. So I think, offensively they could help their defense out in some shootouts. They'll have an advantage. So yeah, I think so those guys like Russo will get maybe there's more attention on him now, but yeah, maybe that opens something up for Lawson or one of those other guys, and they'll find a way. And I feel like with that Bills roster, they're definitely good enough. Stop the run again. Like even if they play the Chiefs again, the Chiefs aren't great at running the football either, which will help. But yeah, the pass rushing aspect is you mentioned there that game against Mahomes. Yeah, that could be a loss, but I think they still find a way to get Super Bowl and win it.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And now their game this week is against the Jets. This is a big game for both teams because if the Jets lose this game, they'll have no shot at all to win the AFC East. If they win, it gets close because the Bills would only be a game ahead of them, and the Jets would have the tiebreaker because they would sweep them. But I think the Bills are going to learn their lesson this time. They're going to contain the running game of the Jets, force Mike White to turn the ball over a couple times. I think Josh Allen throws a couple touchdown passes in this game, and that's why I got the Bills winning. I got to win it by a couple scores. I got the Bills beating the Jets 27-13. But Justin, can Mike White lead the Jets to a sweep of the Bills?
I think possible. I don't think it's very likely that they win this one. I got the Bills 27-21. But last week the Jets were the better team. The Vikings, they just couldn't finish in the end zone. They were 3 for 16 on third down. That's kind of the stuff that's going to get you beat. But yeah, Mike White's got to be able to hold on the football. If they can run the game, they got to do what they did last time, shorten the game. Zach Wilson made enough plays in that game. The defense played really well for the Jets. So, that same kind of recipe's got to work again. But I'm with you. I just don't think it'll work a second time. I think the Jets keep this thing close. That team's played hard all year. But I think, the Josh Allen figures out a way to win the game. And the Jets just won't be able to, keep up. I don't think they're going to score, in the high 20s to keep up with Buffalo. And I think that's why the Bills win the game.
Yeah, I think it'll be. Yeah, I just don't think. Yeah, I don't think this time the Jets will be able to shorten the game like they did the last time. And I think the Bills will end up having more possessions, and that will lead to more touchdown passes for Josh Allen. That's why I think the Bills go to 10-3 and win this game. Now we had two big injuries last week with quarterbacks, Jimmy Garoppolo and Lamar Jackson. But we'll start with Jimmy Garoppolo because this is definitely more severe, and this definitely could have a bigger impact on their team. And the Niners right now, the big question is now there's a rumor that Jimmy Garoppolo might come back for late in the postseason. But let's just say he's out for the rest of the year. Can the Niners win a Super Bowl with Jimmy G out? And I know Brock Purdy played really, really well last week for the 49ers. I know he played well. And I know Kyle Shanahan's a great offensive mind, but you got to look at the record. In Kyle Shanahan's time as Niners head coach, the Niners are 38-17 when Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter, and they're 9-29 when he's not the starter. And Brock Purdy, yes, I don't mind him, but there's a reason he's a 7th round pick. So I do think there's a good chance they can make the playoffs. I mean, looking at their schedule, it's not easy, but it's not really difficult. It's not easy, but it's just kind of in the middle. When you look at their schedule, they host the Bucs, go to Seattle. It's a big game next Thursday night, going to Seattle, Washington at home, the Raiders on the road, and then the Cardinals, the last game of the year at home. So the schedule is not easy, but it's not really difficult. So I do think they very easily could just scratch out 2 wins in their next 5 games and get into the playoffs. But I just don't think they are gonna be able to make a run to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G out. I just haven't seen enough from Brock. Obviously, he played pretty well last week, but I just don't have faith in Brock Purdy to win a game, to win an NFC Championship game in Philadelphia. I just don't see that happening. So I don't think the Niners can win a Super Bowl with Jimmy G out.
Yeah, it's difficult. I agree with you. I just part of me thinks that too. with Shanahan's record being so bad without Jimmy G, because Shanahan's been really good offensive minded coach, and you think he puts him in the Purdy in the best position to win the football game. He's into all those things, but he's kind of showed that having Jimmy G behind center. Purdy, he'd be the first Mr. Irrelevant to start at quarterback. So, I liked him at Iowa State. He was really good when they had that running game going, and he'd get in rhythm. He was a good quarterback. Now, obviously this isn't the Big 12 anymore. It's, the NFL. So, it's going to be a lot tougher. Now that Tampa Bay's got some film on him too, they're going to be able to scout him more. So, I think the Niners with that running game still have a chance. But in either one, in any playoff game, there's a good chance that he's going to have to make a play in one of those games. And I don't know yet if he's going to be able to make that play in a big moment. And I think that's where it's going to come down to. Again, their defense is going to keep them a lot of games. And I, wouldn't be shocked, but I just think, they're not going to blow everybody out till here to the Super Bowl. He's going to have to make a big throw at some point, and I don't think he's going to be able to make it. And I think that'll be the difference for the Niners. Again, I really like their roster. I really like their defense. It's too bad. I know they brought in Johnson. I thought maybe Baker, but that I don't think he gets you a Super Bowl either. So it's tough for the Niners, but I agree. I don't think Purdy's going to be that guy.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, if Jimmy G can't make those plays late, there's a very good chance in those games. That's what happened. That's what happened the last two times the Niners lost in the NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl and in the NFC Championship game. I can't see Brock Purdy making those plays late. And I've got a really good comment from Hector. As a Giants fan, we need either Seattle or the Niners or Seattle to fold, and that's a really good point. I mean, if you look at it, Dallas is getting Dallas or Philly are getting the number 5 seed. I mean, probably Dallas is getting the number 5 seed, and then, so there's really 2 spots left. And if the Giants lose to Washington, the Giants would have to win 2 of their last 3 games to make the playoffs. And I think Indy's winnable. And I think that Indy's winnable, and I think maybe that last game in Philly's winnable if it doesn't mean anything for them. And they would need either San Francisco or Seattle to fold because because one of those 2 teams is going to get the number 3 seed because they're going to win the division. So if one of those teams folds, like the Niners or Seattle, that and really all one of those 2 teams, if the Giants get to 9 wins, one of those 2 teams. If one of those 2 teams is 9-8, the Giants will get to the playoffs. So great point by Hector that the Giants definitely need the Niners or Seattle to fold.
Yeah, they do. I have Seattle schedule pulled up. So they got Carolina at home this weekend. They post San Francisco on a short week Thursday night. They go at Kansas City, and they end the year at home against the Jets and the Rams. So their schedule's not too difficult either. But one of those 2 teams that you kind of need to kind of fall apart here towards the end. Seattle looked good last week. We'll see what they do this week against a bad Carolina team. The Giants, tough one on Sunday there to tie. I know you'll get another shot at them coming up here in a couple weeks. But if one of those 2 teams kind of fall apart here down the stretch, then you're going to need one of those 2 teams too, because it's going to be tough to beat the Eagles this week, and going to Washington, that'll be a tough one. But I think it's possible one of those 2 teams could. I think more likely to be Seattle than it'd be the Niners. I just think the Niners. I still really like the Niners roster as a whole. Again, Seattle's got the problems with defense. Geno Smith's been an incredible story, but if any of them, one of them do fold, I think it more likely to be Seattle.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, because Seattle still has to play the Niners. They still have to play the Chiefs. And the thing is, we just as a Giant fan, you got to hope they lose either to the Jets or to the Rams in that last game of the season. So that's what you got to hope for as a Giants fan. So I think Seattle's the more likely team to fold, but really that game in 2 weeks is going to be a huge game between the Niners and the Seahawks. But we'll talk about the Niners have another big game this week against the Buccaneers. Tom Brady heads home to face the San Francisco 49ers, and I think this is a close competitive game. But it's hard for me to take a third-string quarterback over Tom Brady, even though the Bucs offense has really struggled. Brady had another big comeback last week. The one thing about this Bucs offense is they could be terrible for like three quarters. And you've seen it 3 times this year. When it gets late in the game, Brady always picks it up. That Packers game led them on a touchdown at the end, even though they ended up losing because they didn't get the 2-point conversion. Then in that Rams game, they score right at the end and win the game. And then on Monday night, he had that great comeback against the Saints. So you can't count Brady out of a game. I think this is a close competitive game, but I'm going to take the team. I'm going to take Tom Brady here over Brock Purdy. I know the Niners defense is great, but I'm going to take Tom Brady here to get to 7-6. And I got the Bucs beating the Niners 20-17. But Justin, can Brock Purdy win his first start as an NFL? Can Brock Purdy win his first NFL start?
I think they do. At the Niners 20-16. I see what you're saying and all that. I don't know if Tom Brady's be able to get it done against the Niners. Now, again, I wouldn't be shocked. Now, I'm surprised they don't try to run more hurry up earlier in the game to try to maybe get the offense going a little bit sooner. But I think Purdy makes enough plays. I think they run the ball well enough against against the Buccaneers this week. It's at home. My problem is I know Brady came back again last week and all that. I'm not a big fan of this Bucs team right now. I thought they'd start getting it going. They really haven't until late in the game. And I think late in this one, the Niners had the ball. They're able to kind of run out the clock enough, and Brady doesn't have enough time to get it, rally the Buccaneers to get another touchdown. So I'm going to take the Niners to find a way at home to get the win 2016.
Yeah, and you made a good point about the Bucs. Yeah, if the Saints aren't stupid at the end of the when they're up 16-3 and throw the ball on 3rd and 1, there's no way the Bucs win that game. So yeah, the Bucs, we've been waiting for them to turn it around. They really haven't. The offensive line has continued to struggle. The running game has been non-existent. Brady, he's been good, but he hasn't been Joe Burrow, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, or Josh Allen good. So yeah, we've been waiting for this Bucs offense to get things turned around, and we're still waiting. So yeah, for me, I still think this is a team that's not going to win more than one playoff game right now. I still think this team Brady's still good, but I just don't think the team. I don't think he's great anymore. I don't think the team around him is good enough. But I do think they're good enough to beat Brock Purdy and the 49ers. But it should be a very, very interesting game this week. But we got to get to another quarterback who got hurt on Sunday, and that's Lamar Jackson. And he's going to be out 1 to 3 weeks. And the big question is can the Ravens still win the division with Lamar out for the next 2 to 3 weeks? And I'm going to say no, because they have 2 divisional games on the road. I know Pittsburgh and Cleveland aren't great, but they're still in playoff contention. And obviously Cleveland got Deshaun Watson back, even though he didn't look good at all in his first game in Houston. But I think you're looking at Baltimore's schedule. You got Pittsburgh twice, Cleveland, and Cincinnati. I don't think they could still win the division, not with the way Cincinnati's playing. I think Cincinnati's going to repeat in the division. I think the Ravens, say Lamar's out for 3 games, I think the best they're going to do is 2-1. I just don't think they can win all 3 games. And there's a very good chance, playing at the Steelers, at the Browns, and the Falcons, that they could go 1-2.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think they win the division either. Yet the Bengals have been playing really good football right now. They're starting to get in rhythm. And yeah, I know Pitt hasn't been great, but again, they found a way again last week to win. That defense is going to make it, very hard on Tyler Huntley. They struggled last week. I know Denver's defense is pretty good, but yeah, Cleveland with Watson, he looked horrible, but that it's a division game on the road. Yeah, you should beat Atlanta, but yeah, I just think, with 3, with 3 or 4 division games left are all on the road, and all 3 of those, environments are tough to go on the road and beat. And yeah, the way the Bengals are playing, I just right now, and that Baltimore defense, they played well last week against Denver, but as we know, Denver's offense just they can't score. I think Cincinnati right now is the best team in the NFC North. That offense is just right now in a rhythm. P. Ryan had a really good game on the ground, so I think the Bengals find a way to win that division. I think Baltimore's going to finishing second place.
And then the other question is, can the Ravens get to the playoffs without Lamar for a couple of weeks? The difference, because remember last year, they completely collapsed. They lost every game after Lamar got hurt. They lost their last 6 games. They finished the season on a 6-game losing streak. I think the difference this year is they're probably going to get Lamar back for the last 2 games. And I do think with this schedule, I think the game against Atlanta on Christmas Eve, that's going to help. I think that's going to be a win. And they very easily could beat a Pittsburgh or a Cleveland. And then they still have Pittsburgh too. So I think there's a good chance they can go 2-3 in their last 5, and there is also a chance they can go 3-2 and get to 10. And I think getting to 10-11 wins is going to get you in the AFC. So I do think they're still going to make the playoffs with Lamar out.
Yeah, I think so too. And I look at kind of New England, the Chargers. They've both been very inconsistent this year. I don't really trust either team. I know Vegas has been playing well, but I still don't think it's just so hard to get the playoffs that they're starting 2-7. So yeah, I think they find a way. I think the Ravens will find a way to get there. If he misses a couple weeks, he comes back. I would think they beat Atlanta, even if it's Tyler Huntley. And then yeah, at home against the Steelers, they should get, but that won't be easy with that rivalry. But yeah, I think they find a way to sneak in. I think it helps with the teams behind them that right now are kind of on the outside looking in, they haven't looked good majority of the year. They've been up and down. So I think that helps the Ravens as well to get one of those playoff spots.
Yes, and now we'll move on to the game this week as the Steelers host the Ravens this week with Tyler Huntley as the starting quarterback. And I think this is going to be a defensive struggle, but I'm going to take the team. I'm going to take the Steelers here. I'm going to take the Steelers to win the game. I think that the Steelers are going to force a turnover I think Kenny Pickett's not going to be great, but he's going to make less mistakes than Tyler Huntley. And that's why I think the Steelers go to 6-7, win their third in a row, and stay in the playoff race. I think the Steelers win this game 20-14, but Justin, can Tyler Huntley keep the Ravens in contention to win the AFC North?
I think the Steelers, I'm with you, knock them off this week. I got this Pitt winning 20-16. Huntley's kind of a mobile guy too, like Jackson, but it's obviously not the same as Lamar Jackson. I think he kind of shows he didn't look great last week. Turned the ball, threw a pick. Can they get that running game going? But the Steelers defense is, now that they're pretty healthy. I know Watt left the game last week, but I right now that the way the Steelers are playing, I think they find a way. I don't think he makes enough plays as Kenny Pickett does in this game. I think they struggle in this one finding points, and I think the Steelers find a way at home to knock off the Ravens.
All righty, so we got the Battle of Texas this week between the Cowboys and the Texans, but we both know the Cowboys are going to win the game. I think that's pretty obvious. The big story is Odell Beckham has been there for a couple of weeks. I think Odell Beckham has been – Odell Beckham's been there he's been there for a couple of days. He spent 2 days in Dallas. He was at the Mavs game with Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs on Monday night. I think the big question is how much of a difference will OBJ make if he signs with the Cowboys? It looks like it's not going to happen because they're very concerned after his physical, but the big thing is how much of a difference is it going to make. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. I think, him coming off the ACL, I think he'll be productive, but I don't think he'll be a humongous difference maker if he signs with the Cowboys.
No, I don't think so either, especially as you mentioned, if the physical didn't go well, it sounds like mid-January, it's kind of when the Cowboys think he'll be ready. And before that, how much chemistry does he have with Dak and that team? I think it's kind of tough when you get this part of the year to kind of insert somebody this late, especially the wide receiver spot. But I don't think he'd make too big of a difference right now. It'd be nice to have another wide receiver out there, another guy that kind of defense got to pay attention to too. But I don't know how, you wait to mid-January. I don't know how healthy he is, and how much rust does he have to shake off in mid-January, because it'll be 11 months since he last played. So yeah, I don't think it'll make too ton of a difference if they sign him or not.
Yeah, I don't think it will. I still think the Cowboys are going to be they're going to end up being at worst like 12-5. The games they might lose are the Eagle game at home and then the Titans game the second to last week of the year. So at worst, I think they'll end up being 12-5. But yeah, even if he signs there, it doesn't look like he's going to, but even if he signs there, I don't think he's going to make that big of a difference. Now, moving on to the Cowboy game this week, the Battle of Texas against the Texans. I think it's going to be a complete blowout. I think Tony Pollard and Zeke are going to run all over the Texans. I think Davis Mills is going to throw a couple picks. I got the Cowboys winning 38-10, and I assume, Justin, you got the same.
Yeah, I got 34-13. I don't think the 17 points was enough. I think the Cowboys could do whatever they want. I know it was a 2-point game last week against the Colts, but yeah, the Dallas should win this game big. Houston played competitive for a half last week against Cleveland, but yeah, they're off. They got nothing left. Dallas does whatever they want. This should be a complete blitz by the Cowboys this week.
All right, we'll stay in the NFC East, and we got a big game in the NFC East as the 12-1 Eagles face the 7-4-1 Giants, and this is going to be a really this should be a competitive game for a half, but I think in the second half the Eagles should take over. I think Miles Sanders is going to have a really big day on the ground. I think there's a very good chance Leonard Williams won't play in this game, and that's going to be a loss for the Giants. I do think this will be the best game. I think Saquon will finally be motivated. I think it's the best game Saquon will play since the Houston game. I think Saquon will have a pretty good game on the ground. I think he'll have a good game in the first half. I think Jones will throw a couple touchdowns. I think the Giants will stay competitive for a little while, but late third quarter, early fourth quarter, I think the Eagles pull away in this game and they go to 12-1, and that's why I got the Eagles winning this one 30-17. But Justin, can Jones and Barkley carry the Giants to an upset win?
I don't think so. I got the Eagles as well, 27-20. I think the Eagles defense makes a difference in this game. For the Giants, as we all know, the Giants, they want to run the football, kind of, get a lead, kind of be able to run the football, use play action when they get ahead. You can't come back from behind. I think that'll be difficult. Again, I think they'll have some success against the Eagles on the ground. But I think, Jones is probably going to throw a couple of interceptions. The Eagles been really good in the back end this year. And again, the Eagles, they've been plus 13 this year in the turnover margin. Dana Jones can't be throwing interceptions this week and give the Eagles extra possessions here. And I think, the Eagles do capitalize off a turnover too. And I think that's why the Eagles figure out a way to win at MetLife.
And the thing is that if the Giants want to win this game, Saquon's got to go for 100 yards. If Saquon doesn't rush for over 100 yards, there's no way the Giants win this game on Sunday. There's no chance they win this game on Sunday against the Eagles. No way. So Saquon's got to go for over 100 yards. Daniel Jones, outside of the fumble, I thought he played really well against Washington. The problem though is the receivers. Darius Slayton, you got to catch that ball. Come on. Daniel Jones put that right in your hands. You got to catch that ball in your Darius Slayton. And then Ricky James and Saquon Barkley can't run into each other on third and 3 in Washington territory. And then here's where I'm going to be a little bit critical of Daboll. I felt like he should have went for it there. I really, really felt like he should have went for it there. I know the tie does help them in terms of a tiebreaker against Seattle and against Detroit. But if you're Brian Daboll, the identity of this team, I thought in week 1 was being aggressive. It was being aggressive. 20-19 down 20-19 against the Titans. They went for it and won the game. That I felt like that, and that's the big thing about this year is building an identity. Now you not going for it there. Now where's the identity? I thought the identity was being aggressive. That's where I'm going to be a little bit critical of Daboll, was not going for it there.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That was strange. I figured he was going to go for it there. Because it's not like you're playing the Chiefs or the Bills. I know the Washington's been playing better, but it's not like you're playing offensive juggernaut there that, I think their Giant defense could have made a stop even if they didn't convert there on 4th down. Yeah, he hasn't really been that conservative. So it was weird. Yeah, as you mentioned, you're building that identity. They've done a really good job of that this year, being aggressive. And and I don't know if it was kind of the situation of he didn't want to give him the short field there and he was hoping, but it's difficult. It was a difficult call there, but I was a little bit surprised he didn't go for it there because he's been aggressive and I think that's really been that I think that's really helped the team this year. And again, I don't think it'll be that negative going into this week, but it was interesting. He hasn't really done something like that this year.
And maybe listen to his analytics guys who said, if we tie, it might be better off for us going forward. But I feel like instead of, getting maybe the 7th seed in the playoffs, I feel like the identity of the team is more important going forward. And I feel like going for it there, that was the identity that was set in week 1, going for it. Now you don't go for it. It sends some mixed signals there.
No, it does. It definitely does. And I don't know if it was a little bit of, they've kind of been struggling the last few weeks. He didn't want to just, was a little worried that Washington maybe finds a way to get the field goal range and wins in, and you're kind of you lose 3 in a row, and you kind of there's some noise now about after that start, But I think and I know they're in position, and it's something that we didn't think was going to happen this year. But still, I think you got to go for it. I think again, you get it, great. Again, they probably find a way to get a field goal there and win the game. But again, I don't really like playing for a tie there. You mentioned, I know it does help him the standings wise, but it does send mixed signals there because it's something that he's been aggressive all year, and to kind of pull back there, in a spot. So it was a little bit weird that he did it.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And before we get to your team, we got to get a comment in from Hector. How different is this Cowboys team from previous Cowboy teams? Lots of talk to them getting the Super Bowl. And I think I don't think I think this is the same Cowboy team we've seen for years. I think it's a good team, but not a great team, and a team that has benefited from a pretty favorable. Just like the Giants, just like anybody in the NFC East, they benefited from a favorable schedule. And I think that 54-19 win, I think that was not indicative of how that game was. That was a 2-point game in the fourth quarter, and Indy just kept turning the ball over in the fourth quarter. So I think this Cowboy team is good, but I think I could very easily see them losing in the first round again to Tampa Bay if they get there. Or I could see this team. I could see this team making a run, but I think they're talented enough to make a run. But I think, is the quarterback and the coach good enough to make a run? We'll see. We'll see this year. So I think this Cowboys team, I don't think it's different from previous Cowboy teams. And I wouldn't be surprised if this Cowboy team loses in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. I wouldn't either. Again, yeah, they've been rolling teams. But yeah, you mentioned it's just, the NFC is not strong this year at all. The Packers are down. Thought Tampa Bay was going to be better. The Rams kind of, the Rams haven't been good at all. I know they went on the road and absolutely throttled the Vikings, but I still don't think the Vikings are a good team, but I don't think I still don't believe that they could win a Super Bowl. I think, then the Jets outplayed them last week, so I don't like their defense that much, especially in secondary. Yeah, the Cowboys have really benefited off a really good schedule. They've played well all year, good for them. But yeah, going to Tampa, playing Tom Brady in the first round, I could very well see Tampa Bay knocking them off and being the same old Cowboys team. But again, I wouldn't be shocked to see them go to the Super Bowl because the NFC is just so down. But as the Cowboys do, seems like in the playoffs the last couple of years, they'll find a way to kind of lose the game themselves.
Yeah, right now it looks like they're the second best team in the NFC, but the problem is that them not winning the division is going to set up a matchup with them going to Tampa Bay. So that definitely can be a spot where they lose. And we got another question from Hector. I think Minnesota is good enough to get to the Super Bowl, but not winning it. And listen, Minnesota's not getting any respect. And the reason Minnesota's not getting any respect is because of that Dallas game. But you have to factor in that they're 10-2. So yeah, if you look at maybe 40, you look at the Eagles, Cowboys, or 49ers, they're probably fourth, but they are 10-2, and they don't have a great team, but they got a good team. So if they were in the AFC, we probably would count out Minnesota. But in the NFC, I don't know if you can count out Minnesota.
I guess you can't because what I mentioned with the Cowboys is so many teams are down right now. But yeah, I don't in the secondary. I don't really like. They think they're one of the worst teams passing wise defensively this year. I think there's been a lot of luck on their side. They found a way to win, but at some point I feel like winning all these close games, they're going to go against you at some point. I think that will probably come in the month of January in the playoffs in a big spot. But look, their offense is really, really good, but it's just that defense really concerns me. Again, I think, O'Connell's done a really good job with this team. I think he's been good for Cousins. I think he's been good for that entire staff for that entire roster. I wouldn't be shocked to see him make the Super Bowl. I do think they get knocked out before that. I think there's some ball. I think there's been a lot of luck on their side. I think at some point that's going to go against them.
And the issue with them is their two losses, they lost handily. They got crushed. They got crushed to the Eagles on Monday night, and they got crushed to the Cowboys. So in two of their losses, they got destroyed, and they've won 9 one-score games.
Yeah, and that usually doesn't happen. It just, it really doesn't. And, that's something for next year. Usually teams like that, they win a lot of one-score games one year. Usually the next year, that doesn't go as well for them. So, but yeah, they found ways to win. Great for them. That offense keep up with anybody. I just don't think that defense is stopping too many teams, especially in the passing game.
All righty. So now that we've been talking about Minnesota, we're going to put your team on hold, and we're actually going to talk about the Vikings game this weekend. And they go to Detroit to face the Lions. The Lions have been red hot. They've won 4 of their last 5 games. They've been playing really, really well. Their defense has been improved. Their defense has been definitely playing better. Jared Goff and that offense has been red hot. And I think Jared Goff, that continues this week. I think he has another big game. I think DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, that running game, has another big game. I think this is an up and down. This game goes up and down the field, just like it was last year when the Lions and Vikings played. But and I'm going to go with the Lions here. It's funny. They're a favorite. They're 5-7. The Vikings are 10-2, and they're a favorite in this game. I'm going to go with the Lions to win this game, 30-27. But Justin, can the Vikings sweep the Lions and get to 11-2?
No, I'm with you. I got the Lions 20-23, and yeah, Dan Campbell. I thought after the Patriot game, I kind of rid them off, and I thought it would be another long year for Detroit. But they've looked pretty good the last couple of weeks. For the Vikings, the Vikings are 8-0 this year when they've scored first, and they're 7-0 when they've led at half. So they can get a lead, good chance to win this game. But yeah, with their defense, I think Goff keeps rolling this week. Jameson Williams is supposed to, make his NFL debut. So we'll see what he's able to bring to the table. But the Lions were 3 for 16 last time on third down against the Vikings. I think, that changes time. I think Kirk Cousins makes some plays. Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook has a big day. But I think the Lions find a way offensively to outscore the Vikings.
All righty, we'll move on to your team, and they play the Monday night game against the Cardinals, and they need to win this game if they have any hope of making the playoffs. You look at their last 4 games, you're playing a red-hot Raiders team on the road, you got the Bengals, you got the Dolphins at home, and then you got the Bills on the road. So this team, this Pats team definitely needs to win this game against Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals. But the thing is, I don't think they do. I really don't. I think that Kyler Murray and I think they do take away DeAndre Hopkins. I think DeAndre Hopkins gets limited in this game, but I don't think Hollywood Brown does. I think Hollywood Brown has a big game. He goes for over 100 yards. I think Kyler Murray has a good game too. I think that Mac Jones plays pretty well, but when it comes right down to the end, I don't think him and Patricia are getting it done, and that's why I got the Cardinals beating the Pats in Arizona. No, I got the Cardinals beating the Pats in Arizona, 24-20. But Justin, can Mac Jones bounce back this week and keep the Pats in the play and keep the Pats playoff hopes alive?
I think they do. 22-17. I got the Pats winning this one. I think they play well enough in this game. Again, Arizona's 1-10 in the last 11 games at State Farm Stadium, their home stadium. They don't win at home for whatever reason. I know they come out the bye and all that. They got to fix their red zone woes right now. They've been horrific in that area. Patricia, Mac Jones, I understand his frustration with the words he kind of mouthed there after the game on the sidelines. Marcus, again, why can't we do more creative play calls like we did with Marcus Jones? Why don't we try to function more of that into our offense? You would think it would. It shows it helps, but we got to be able to run the football this week. Mac Jones, I think, makes enough plays. I think we kick a bunch of field goals in this game. But I'll take Bill over Cliff Kingsbury. And again, the Patriots can't beat themselves. They that's something that they never do, but they've costed themselves a couple games this year because they beat themselves, and that's not usually what Bill Belichick teams do. So it'll be interesting. And I don't know if you saw the report from Jeff Lowe, one of the Pats writers. Sounds like the very good possibility Tom Brady may be coming back to Foxborough next year. So. Yeah, I would assume if that happens, I don't think Patricia is going to be the OC.
There's not a chance. And there could be a chance there. And you could see the frustration with Mac Jones. I mean, I don't mind Mac Jones for being frustrated because, you look at what Jalen Hurts, his former Alabama teammate guy, his team went out and traded for AJ Brown. You look at what his former teammate, you look at what Tua guy, they traded for Tyreek Hill. And pretty much his team just trades like a 3rd round pick to go get Devontae Parker, and the Dolphins traded him within the division. That shows you how much the Dolphins thought of Devontae Parker. So, yeah, listen, I don't mind Mac Jones for being frustrated. I think Matt Patricia needs to be fired at the end of the year. He's been absolutely terrible. And I think the Patriots, absolutely, that's the first order of business. They don't make the playoffs. They need to get a new offensive coordinator. I don't think you give up on Mac Jones. I think you stick with Mac Jones, even though, there are issues with Brady and Tampa right now, even though he won last week. But I think you stick with Mac Jones, and you need to get a new offensive coordinator and maybe even a new general manager to get some players in here and just have Bill coach the team, because I think Mac Jones has potential, but I think this year they set Mac Jones up to have a bad year.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I liked how he was kind of frustrated there. Again, I know after the game he was like, "Oh, it wasn't that Patricia," but gotta imagine that's what Bill told him to say after the game. But yeah, again, it's just I think Mac Jones out of his class could be the best quarterback in this draft class. Fields is pretty good.
That's not saying much because this draft class has really struggled. Even though Justin Fields has played well, he does throw those late game interceptions. But he does have a chance to be the best. I mean, it's not even close to the draft class before him.
No.
Before his.
No, it's not. But again, I think he could be a guy that could be around and be a franchise quarterback. Again, probably never going to be a top 5, maybe borderline top 10 he could get to, maybe. But he needs a guy around him to help him. Yeah, and absolutely, he's not gotten that help this year. It's been very frustrating, again, because he went to the Pro Bowl last year. They got to the playoffs last year. And this year, it's just been a total regression by everything. And again, the offensive line, they tore apart the offensive line too. They got rid of Shaq Mason. They shipped him off to Tampa Bay for a 5th-round pick. Like, it's just, Cole Strange has, look good in the beginning of the year. Last couple weeks, he hasn't been great. So they pretty much just stripped this thing clean. And Bill kind of was like, Bill kind of, for whatever reason was like, like Mac Jones would be Tom Brady and fill every hole and make sure, and he was going to kind of, fill all those holes that, that the weaknesses that they have. And just, again, you can't really expect Mac to do that. And that's been the issue. And it's been tough. And again, I still have full trust in Mac Jones, but it'll be interesting. It really will. Cause too, getting up to Foxborough, on Route 1 with that one lane there, it's not easy. Like, if they drop these two out west, I can't imagine that stadium last 2 home games. I don't know how well attend those 2 things are going to be, especially it's Christmas Eve and New Year's Day. I don't imagine how, what's the crowd going to be like, especially if you're Kraft too, because he's in his 70s. As you talked about bringing a new GM here with the brand new guys, again, he's probably going to want one more push at the Super Bowl. I can't imagine he's going to want to sit through a rebuild here. So absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how the fan base reacts here these next couple of weeks.
Oh, absolutely. But we got to get to the rest of the slate, and we'll quickly go through that. We got tomorrow night's game. We got the Raiders going to LA to face the Rams. And I think the Raiders win this one easily. I think Derek Carr throws a couple touchdown passes. You saw Chandler Jones have a big week last week. I think the Max Crosby and him, Zach, whoever is playing quarterback for the Rams, if it's John Wolford, if it's even Baker Mayfield, who they just claimed off waivers last week. I got the Raiders winning this one big. I got them winning at 26-10. But Justin, can the Rams spoil the Raiders' playoff hopes?
I think they keep it close. I got the Raiders 24-20. Thursday nights are always a weird week. The Rams offense, looked decent last week against Seattle. Maybe a little progress there, but yeah, who knows who's starting at quarterback for the Rams this week. I think they keep it close in this one. I think their defense could make a play or two in this one, keep in it. But that offense right now, I don't think they're going to be able to do a ton. And the Raiders find a way to get a win.
Got an AFC North matchup in Cincinnati as the Browns travel to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. And I didn't like what I saw to Deshaun Watson last week at all. I thought he was rusty. And I just can't, with him playing the way he did last week, I can't trust him this week at Cincinnati, a team that's playing really, really well. I think Joe Burrow has a big day, throws a couple touchdown passes. I think they finally get over that hump against the Browns. They've lost 5 straight to the Browns. I think they finally get over that hump. I think they force Watson to turn the ball over a couple of times, and that's why I got the Bengals winning. I got to win it by 2 scores. I got to win it 31-17. But Justin, can the Browns get their 6th straight win over the Bengals?
I don't think so either. They got the Bengals 20-21. Yeah, maybe a little bit of letdown in the first half after a win against the Chiefs. But yeah, I think Burrow's motivated to find a way to get this win, finally beat the Browns. Yeah, Watson did not look great last week. Maybe they are able to kind of run the football. Their defense, special teams, they can make a play, great for them, against the Bengals. That's what they're going to need. I just don't, I know Cincinnati's done really well defensively against Burrow, but I think this time around, I think Cincinnati finally figures them out, and I think Joe Burrow has a big day, and they finally, get that, they finally find a way to get the win against the Browns.
Yeah, so we got an AFC South matchup in Tennessee as the Jags face the Titans. It's already been a rough week for the Titans as they fired GM John Robinson, and you know why. I mean, they didn't want to pay A.J. Brown over $20 million a year. They signed. They end up drafting Treylon Burks, thinking he's going to replace A.J. Brown. He couldn't have been more wrong about that. That was probably. I think there were other things. The first round picks not getting second year deals like Jack Conlon. Them deciding to go with Ryan Tannehill instead of Tom Brady. So there's been a bunch of other things, but I think the straw that broke the camel's back was them not paying A.J. Brown, ending up trading him. He has a huge game last week. Goes for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the Titans get destroyed. But in this game, I think the Titans win this. I think they win it. I think they get enough rushing yards from Derrick Henry. I do think they force Lawrence to turn the ball over 1 or 2 times. That's why I got the Titans getting into really good position to win the AFC South and winning this game 23-13. And they're lucky they're in this division, because to me, they're pretenders. They're not contenders. I think a big reason why is because A.J. Brown is gone. And the question is for the Jaguars, can Trevor Lawrence keep them in the AFC South race?
I don't think so. I got the Titans as well, 23-17. I know he left the game last week against the Lions. He's pretty banged up. So we'll see how healthy he is. the Jaguars' offensive line's been pretty good this year. Christian Kirk, I could see having he's been a nice pickup for him. I could see him having a big day against that Tennessee secondary. They're, in Travis Etienne, the screen game, if they could, they can rack up some yards. I think they can beat the Titans, but I think they bounce back this week. I think that defense is enough, and Derrick Henry's, has demolished the Jaguars over his career, and I don't think they're going to be able to do enough to keep up this week.
AFC West matchup in Denver as the Chiefs face the Broncos. And I think the Broncos defense will keep them in them early, but there's just no way this absolutely horrendous Denver Broncos offense is going to be able to keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's why I got the Chiefs winning this one going away 27-9. And I assume you got the same.
Yeah, I got the Chiefs 24-13. Yeah, Denver in 2 games this year, they've only scored more than 20 points in 2 games in 2022, which is,
and they gave up a first-round pick for their starting quarterback.
Yeah, that's it's gonna be a long couple years here for the Broncos, and it's gonna be the same on Sunday. Maybe they can make a play or two against the Chiefs defense, but it's just their offense just hasn't been good against anybody. The Ravens secondary hasn't been great all year. They weren't great throwing the ball either. So I think the Chiefs won by 2 scores, but yeah, this thing could be close at halftime.
We got the Seahawks hosting the Panthers this week. And I think in this game, I think that the Seahawks defense, yes, I think the Panthers will get some rushing yards because the Seahawks defense has struggled to stop the run. But I do think they force a couple turnovers from Sam Darnold. And I do think Geno Smith throws a couple touchdown passes. And I think the Seattle story continues. I think they get into that game with San Francisco next week with an 8-5 record with a real chance to win the NFC West. And I got the Seahawks beating the Panthers 27-16. But Justin, can the Panthers get their first win on the road this season?
I think they keep it close, but I got the Seahawks as well, 24-21. Tough to come cross country here. Going to Seattle, that's a tough place to win. I don't trust Sam Darnold on the road here to make enough plays in this game. They'll probably run the ball effectively enough, but I think a turnover or 2 will make the difference, in this game. And I got Seattle to find a way, to go 8-5 and continue to be in the playoff hunt and the NFC West hunt.
Big game on Sunday Night Football as the Dolphins take on the Chargers. Dolphins win this game. They're in a really good spot to make the playoffs. They don't. They'll probably be fighting for a playoff spot. I think this is a close, competitive game, but I'm going to take the home team, and I'm going to take the team, in my opinion, that has the better quarterback. I'm going to take Justin Herbert. Tua's a little bit banged up this week. I think the difference in this game is going to be the Chargers are going to score touchdowns. The Dolphins are going to get field goals. I think Tyron Armstead being out is going to hurt too. It hurt a little bit last week. Not as much as you thought it would, but it hurt a little bit last week as Nick Bosa had 3 sacks. I think that the Chargers pull this one out. I got them winning it 28-23 over the Dolphins. But Justin, can Tua get the Dolphins back on track and get them to 9-4?
I think they do. I got the Dolphins, getting a win this week, 27-23. The turnovers really hurt Miami last week. Tua's got to be, threw 3 interceptions last week. That's got to be better. I think they run the ball a little bit better than the Chargers do. And, I think, the Dolphins defensive line gets after Justin Herbert. As you mentioned earlier, Chandler Jones finally showed up last week against the Chargers. He had a big day. I think Miami's going to be able to do the same. I think Tua makes enough plays. I think, Tyreek Hill's, makes a couple of big plays in this one. And I just don't really trust the Chargers at all. They're just, Staley's got to go. And I would think Chargers are smart enough to get rid of him, for the future of that franchise.
Yeah, he definitely should be fired if this team doesn't make the playoffs. But the Final Four in college football is set. But before we talk about that, we're going to hear from our friends at JPEG Financial and Shamrock Home Inspections.
Do you have a 401k and some savings for future retirement, but don't even know if it's enough to live off of? How much is enough? How often are you thinking about it? The team at JPEG's Financial Group can help set your mind at ease. We specialize in creating strategies in the planning and managing of your financial, educational, and investment needs. We help clients pursue their investment goals with sound financial strategies. You deserve a personal, tailored plan. Lasting, meaningful, and open relationships are the foundation of our practice. You've worked hard for your money and should feel confident in your investment choices as you make decisions for your financial future. Your goals are our goals. We are dedicated to your needs and hopes for your future. Visit our website and give us a call at 860-430-5397. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. JPEX Financial Group, LLC is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services. JPEX Financial Group is located at 78 Eastern Boulevard, Glastonbury, Connecticut. There's no bigger investment than home ownership. And to make sure the house is up to your standards, you need a professional to look it over. Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections is a licensed home inspector and a member of the Connecticut Association of Home Inspectors. Brian was a contractor for over 15 years, so he knows how homes should be constructed and how mechanicals should work.
What makes me a good home inspector was the 20 years that I was a home improvement person, doing all the different repairs that I have done and what other people have done wrong that I had to go out and fix. So I have a pretty quick eye on seeing what's right and what's wrong. Before you move, call Shamrock Home Inspections.
Before you make the biggest investment of your life, call Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections at 860-268-2566 or visit shamrockhomeinspectionct.com.
All righty. So on Sunday, the Final Four in college football was announced. I agreed on all four teams the committee, put in. I did agree with Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, with Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and Ohio State. But the order, I thought the order would be different. I thought it would have been Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and TCU. I would have taken Ohio. I thought Ohio State. I would have taken Ohio State's 11-1 over TCU's 12-1. But Justin, do you feel like the committee got it right?
Yeah, I think they got the right four teams. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised too that Ohio State was a 3, TCU was a 4 there. Ohio State was a 4, TCU was a 3. Because back in 2014 it was TCU went down a spot after winning their final game of the year. And this time after they lost, they moved up, they stayed in the same spot. But I think the 4 teams got it right. But yeah, I thought that 3 and 4 were going to be flip flopped.
Yeah, and I think the big question is did they avoid an Ohio State Michigan semifinal? And it's tough for me. I think they kind of did. I think they kind of did. I just didn't think they wanted those two to play in the semifinal. I think they wanted that to. I think they just don't want, because I don't think we've ever seen. We've seen it in the national championship game. We saw Georgia play Alabama twice. So I just don't think they wanted two teams in the same conference playing each other in the first round. So I do think they kind of avoided that. Yeah,
I'm with you. I think they did too. Because I thought, after the loss, TCU would have probably moved back to 4. Yeah, and then, I know they just played a couple weeks ago. I thought too there was a possibility of those two matching up because, they had 17 million viewers. And again, for a playoff game, they had that probably, that rating would have been even higher. So, yeah, I was a little bit surprised, but, that they didn't. But yeah, I think the committee did try to avoid that and did avoid that matchup in the first round or semifinal.
But the thing is, even if they did or didn't avoid it, it just showed you that Alabama was not close to making the playoff. I think they were pretty set on TCU being in, even if they would have lost. Maybe if they lost that game in a blowout, maybe they would have been 3 or they would have been 4 instead of 3. But they pretty much thought that the one thing the committee has been consistent about is 2 lost teams don't get in, and they definitely stood to that with this ranking.
Yeah, they did, and I think that's good because especially with 4 teams, if you have an option for a one loss or undefeated team, they should be getting in over that 2-loss team. And I don't care who that 2-loss team is. I thought thought maybe Alabama was a sneak in here. Good. I'm fine that they didn't here. I know Saban was on all the networks trying to go with Vegas. Oh, we'd be favored against blah blah, whoever. But I think it was good for the committee that they did let TCU deserve that spot because again, they go 12-0 and you got penalized for losing a conference championship game in overtime. To knock them out would have been really, really harsh.
Yeah, imagine if Alabama got in over them. It would be, the reaction would be crazy.
Yeah, it would be, and it rightfully so. Because that again, talked about all year. The SEC West is not as strong as it usually is, and TCU again, the Big 12 is not great, but it's very competitive top to bottom. And again, TCU deserved to get that spot.
Absolutely. So now we'll move on to the Heisman race, and that obviously that'll be announced this week. And you got 4 members: Stenson Bennett, Max Duggan, CJ Stroud, and Caleb Williams. And I think this Heisman Trophy, I think it's an easy one. I think it's going to Caleb Williams. I think it is. I mean, that team was 4-8 last year. He carried that team to the Pac-12 championship game. And if he doesn't get hurt, they're in the playoff. Because you remember, because when he got hurt in that game flipped. That game turned around dramatically. So I think he's meant more to anyone else I think he's meant more than anyone else to his team in college football this year. That's why my Heisman pick is Caleb Williams.
I'm with you. I think Caleb's going to get it as well. Duggan had a big game. Now, the voting was supposed to be in before the conference championship games, but you never know. So, yeah, maybe because I could see, Duggan, with Williams getting hurt. But, yeah, Williams had a fantastic year. Max Duggan did too. They were both phenomenal. But, yeah, Caleb Williams with 37 touchdowns. That offense was just something special all year. Yeah, it's unfortunate he got hurt because, yeah, they probably win that game and, get one of the, they're either the 3 or 4 seed there. But I also want to say this. I can't believe Hayden Hooker or Blake Corum didn't get invited to New York. I know those two got hurt, but, those two were definitely deserving over Stetson Bennett.
Stetson Bennett is the least deserving. Stetson Bennett, I know he's been good. He's good, good college quarterback, but he should not be in a Heisman conversation. I'm sorry. With that defense and with that running game, come on. A lot of quarterbacks can be put on Georgia, and they would be as successful as Stetson Bennett. There's no way. Yeah, I would have put in Blake Corum, who carried his team to an undefeated season until the Ohio State game, and then you got Hendon Hooker, who beat Alabama. You cannot have Stetson Bennett being in the Heisman conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Bennett's been good, but you could put any quarterback back there and they're going to be successful. So, I would have gone with either one of them or Corum, because I think Corum, if he was healthy, he had like 200 yards against Ohio State. Like if they were, because again, the way they ran the ball against Ohio State, if he had 150, 200 yards, I think he wins the Heisman. I think he would have won it. So, yeah, I think for him not to be in New York either is disappointing. So, because those two deserved it. I know, unfortunately, got hurt, but those two deserve to be in there.
Absolutely. And we'll wrap up the show talking about the traditional Army-Navy game. Navy comes in at 4-7. Army comes in at 5-6. The thing is here, I think it's going to be a close, competitive game, but I'm going to take Army. But the big question is, if Army wins, can they get into a bowl game, or just because the bowls have been selected, that's over?
Yeah, so they tried to get a waiver before because they played 2 FCS teams, and you can only get one win to count toward your bowl eligibility from an FCS team. So I think they did apply, but they got rejected. So yeah, this is it for Army. They won't be able to go bowling.
So who do you got in this game? Who do you got? I got Army close.
I got Army 17-13, and Army's got a guy that's could be a first round pick in Andre Carter at the end spot at the edge spot. So
is that his son? Is that the Andre Carter who played in the NFL? Is that his son?
Yeah.
Oh wow, nice. So the guy who played for the Redskins and the Patriots, for Washington and the Patriots, that's his son.
Yep. Yeah. So he's somebody that's been a great story this year. And yeah, he's got potential. I think since like 1974 is the last time Army's had a first round pick. So it'd be cool to see him get there. But yeah, both teams have played well down the stretch here. But yeah, I think Army finds a way to get revenge after Navy upset them last year.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Army-Navy in Philly at Lincoln Financial Field this Sunday. But that's going to wrap it. No, this Saturday. But that's going to wrap it up on Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin Alfrio, I'm Steve Risser. We'll be back next week talking Week 15 of the NFL season and any more baseball news that comes our way. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Jones on first down, wide open, it's Barkley. And Saquon Barkley will take it into the end zone.
Your best ability is availability. Saquon Barkley, he's great when he's on the field, but the problem is since 2018, he hasn't been healthy for this team.
Look at this. They lob it to him. He taps it in off the glass. How about that?
Porter Moser, I think right now is the best coach in college basketball, hands down.
Fins 2 for 3. He's done his part. Pitch is drilled to deep right field toward the pole, and it is gone.
They don't mind not being what they were in the 90s as the best organization in baseball, because the Yankees aren't even close to the best organization in baseball.
They're trying to be the Rays, and the Rays do this for a reason. Like, you're the Yankees.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group, and here at CMG we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. and great true crime shows like Sticky Meat, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting ClovercrestMedia.com.